Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Oh my goodness, I have not said those words in a long time, but it feels good to be back. I took a break from YouTube and just content creating in itself because there were just so many things happening in my life and I just felt so uninspired. But then yesterday I got a DM from one of the people that follow me on Instagram, and they told me how they were watching one of my past videos and it actually really inspired them and it taught them more about feminism. And I was like, okay, I guess I should keep on going because clearly it has an impact on people's lives. And apart from whatever I could be dealing with, whatever is going on in my life, as long as I'm doing something in my life to inspire, to change, to redirect paradigms, that's really enough for me. So I thought, let me just film this video before I get to class, because after all it is Women's Month and I do want to sort of make a contribution to just discussing where we are as women in this country and how we can propel ourselves forward and how our country can create a conducive environment for women to actually succeed and flourish. And so yeah, I was listening to a podcast today by Shetty, and he was interviewing one of his friends. She is a beauty mogul. I'm not sure what her name was. I was just listening to it while I was getting ready for the day. And she was talking about how she's been able to create her success and build herself a career off of what she's passionate about and what she is naturally aligned with, which is beauty and makeup. And she also has a YouTube channel and she's very successful. And so it made me think about how there's no better time in this country and in this world right now to be a woman, because there's so many industries that we have so much impact in that we can actually capitalize on and take the claim and even the economic and monetary aspect of it. So that's when I was like, wow, I'm actually I'm happy to be alive in this time because there's so much opportunity. Yes, though at the same time there are other areas and parts of the world where there is institutionalized injustice that still exists, and we have to fight that and combat that. But overall, I think that we are on just a very light-filled path that has potential and that has room for us to actually latch onto and succeed as women. But apart from that, what I wanted to talk about today, that was just like a side note. But what I wanted to talk about today was how the narrative and these struggles have evolved within the cohort of women in our country. So from 1956, when we had powerful women marching all the way to the union buildings during the apartheid era, up until now in 2019, there's so many things that have radically changed, and the struggle of the South African woman has evolved. Obviously, we live in an era of freedom and liberation, and we all genuinely have the equal opportunities, equal rights, with some discrepancies to it because not everything is as equal as it may seem, but that's a discussion for another day. But we generally live in a world and in a country that doesn't have the same struggles now that our predecessors had to face. And I think it's important for us to sit back and actually look at the spectrum of time and actually analyze and see what struggles and predicaments do we have that are similar to that of our predecessors, and how can we learn from them, and passing through the time, how can we use those experiences to adapt them into the challenges that we face now. So obviously the women of 1956 generally faced a lot of, on top of racial oppression, they faced a lot of gender discrimination, injustices, sexism, patriarchy, adjusted to how they were living at that time. And over time, I think as the baton has been passed on to us, we have a different struggle and we have different narratives to change. But I think we must never forget the fact that we should learn something, one or two things from the women of 1956. And in my opinion, I feel like we should not only celebrate women of that era, but also look at how generally throughout the revolution and throughout the movement for the abolishment of apartheid and racism, I think the one thing that we ignored and that we were oblivious to during that time was the fact that a lot of women sacrificed the struggle for female liberation, for racial liberation. Because if you look at African movements, a lot of them were headlined and they were charted and led by men, men who were in the very least patriarchal. And I know it's a bold statement to make, and a lot of people may have their different opinions, and they may question my opinion in their own right, and you have your right to do so. But I firmly believe that if you look at the way women were treated, and I'm going to make reference to Winnie Madikizela Mandela, how she was vilified and how she was ostracized for her choices, is something that male counterparts within the African liberation movement wouldn't have to face. I mean, yes, she undertook a lot of responsibilities, and under her hands a lot of things were done, most of them with good spirits to liberate African people. But I still to this day feel that if a male who was prominent during the apartheid era, who was a leader, did the same things that she did, that male would not have been as vilified as Winnie Madikizela was. And so just through that rudimentary example, it's so evident that the women of that time faced not only racial injustices but gender injustices, where they were domesticated, they weren't expected to stand up and be bold about what they wanted. The fact that men were negotiating tables with our oppressors and women weren't present just goes to show that for a long time women have sacrificed the gender struggle and the addressing of injustices just to accommodate and to place priority onto the racial injustices. It's like a pyramid, it's like a hierarchy where we have to work with prioritization, and to our detriment, women have always been the last priority. And so moving from that, I think as women of the 21st century, it's so important for us to remember that apart from obviously trying to combat racism and to live in a society that recognizes us with equal stature, we must also never allow that struggle to supersede the inherent and underlying misogynistic and patriarchal opinions and views of people. And that's why it's so important to actually address how the struggles and the batons have changed. I think now in 2019, what we as women need to focus a lot on is economically empowering women and giving women skills and conscientizing women about the possibilities that are out there and what they can do in the world. It's no longer just about fighting racism and so many other social injustices, but the narrative has really changed, and it's time to see more women occupying spaces in business and entrepreneurship. And hence why I started this video by referring to entrepreneurship in the beauty industry and so many industries that women are predominant in, and we no longer have to have males in the background orchestrating every single scene of how businesses are run and commercialized. In industries where women are leaders, we can have different women starting their own beauty companies. I mean, from the top of my head, someone I can think of who I know will start a business that will be very successful in the beauty industry in our country, Mihlali Ndamase. She's built such a big brand for herself, and she's created enough power. She's been able to use her influence, not only work with brands, but I feel like people like her set an example of how if you have a specific niche and if you have a specific interest and talent, and if you're able to garner influence within that industry, capitalizing on it and creating businesses out of it and employing other females who understand that business can ignite so much change and so much growth in our country and within the narrative of the African woman. And I think that's why it's so important to realize that it's not only just about having these big, elaborate, flamboyant functions at stadiums on the 9th of August every year, when we say Viva Helen Joseph and all these amazing women who, yes, played a significant role that I never want to invalidate or take for granted. But how about moving from those big elaborate functions that take up a lot of money, to creating workshops for women, to creating spaces where we can engage in discourse and share our ideas and share our business ideas and find inspiration from other women. Just yesterday I was at an event here at VIT, as an event that was headlined and created by the SRC, and we had powerful speakers there. We had two panelists. One was Balesa Moloy, I think, and the other one was Miss Nunu. I forgot her surname, but she is in they're both in the tech industry, and they're powerhouses, you know, and they spoke about their journeys and how they were able to break into male-dominated industries. And simply taking conversations like that and bringing it back to townships, bringing it back to rural areas, can open up the minds of so many young women and make them realize that in the 21st century, there's so many things that I can do, you know, and it's important for us to have those conversations. I know people always say, how does talking and how does, you know, having how does engaging in dialogue help? But simple settings like that, for me at least, inspired me to always aim high, and inspired me, and it validated all of the different business projects and creative projects that I've been contemplating, you know. And it's that little push and that stamp of approval that says, okay, you're going in the right direction. There are women that have gone before you who have done this, and you clearly have a space because there's been a ladder that's been created, and you're free to climb up that ladder. And my vision and my dream in life would be to have platforms and to organize platforms like that go back to rural areas in our country, and that pick up our sisters that have been left behind, you know, pick up our sisters that have been excluded from things like the fourth industrial revolution and all these other different movements and dynamic progressions that our world is currently undergoing. And so that's how I think the struggle and just really the mandate of women has changed from 1956 up until now in 2019. And there's so many things that we are going to achieve as women, and I think it's important once again to be more present, to be more on the ground, and to be more firm about what we want to do as women, and how we are not going to give men a choice. They're going to have to, you know, jump onto our bandwagon and make sure that we all get to a place where women are completely liberated in all spheres and in all realms. And so with that being said, I'd like to wish every single South African woman a beautiful, prosperous, life-changing Women's Month. May it not just be the month of August that we designate to celebrating women, but may it be the whole year where we actively get up and say, how can I empower another woman today? What action can I take to ensure that the girl next to me is empowered? Whether it's a simple compliment in a lecture, you compliment the girl next to you and you say, girl, you're looking fine today, or, you know, simple things like that, to giving opportunities to young girls that you think could fit that niche perfectly because they have the skills. So it's things like that we can do as women and as men, because after all, a feminist can be a man or a woman. Those are the things that we can do to actually ensure that we progress. So happy Women's Month to all of you. May it not just end with the month, but may it be every single day, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, where you strive to uplift and improve the narrative of the African woman. And with that said, thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you next time, and from my side, keep well, and I love you guys.